So we're going to ask, we're thinking about outcome measures, and we particularly wanted to focus on two questions. And the first one was really, have, in your experience, attitudes changed in the team about measuring outcomes over the last sort of year or two, do you think? And if so, how have they changed?
I think we've got better at measuring outcomes. We've made it easier for ourselves. It's part of our integrated care pathway now. It's all in one document, so rather than have to grab an outcomes measure, it's all part of our ICP, so we just work our way through the paperwork.
It's much more routine now.
So an ICP, integrated care pathway. Yeah.
It's much more routine, and I think because of the different studies and outcome measures that we've seen and been brought back to us as results, we've actually seen that there is a benefit to doing them and measuring how good we are.
Yeah.
But do you think that was a downside, that one of the reasons why people sometimes don't measure outcomes is actually there's a fear that they'll show that we're not very good?
Maybe.
Yeah, or people don't have an understanding of what they're really used for, so it just becomes another piece of paperwork. And I think also for me as a practitioner, relatively sort of new to the team, that it enables me to look at the gaps in my knowledge about that particular young person. So particularly with the aim, I think, oh, I'm not sure that I quite know enough about that particular question, and I almost want to go back to the young person and get a better understanding. So sort of, it informs my wider knowledge about that young person and their life. And for me, that's very, very useful.
So, I mean, generally, you're all saying quite positive things about outcomes. And if we were to press rewind on the team to sort of say 2 years ago, when we were trying to kind of start doing outcomes, in fact, we had to because we were commissioned at that point and we had to do outcomes. I mean, can you remember back to how that was? And
well, I think the aim was a massive document. Like, even now feels like a huge document to complete. It's only 40 questions, but I think it's slightly easier now that a lot of people do it online because you're just ticking a box rather than looking at a 40-page document thinking, God, do I have time to go through this? And also we have a better understanding of what the questions are, because it takes time to understand what exactly we're being asked to evaluate. Do you know what I mean? So I would think it probably seemed like
bit of a task,
quite a
task, and then all the other ones as well. It's like, well, why are we doing all of these outcome measures when we've already got one that seems to be okay? But it just adds to the overall picture, I think, and people have seen that as time's gone on.
Because the one that you were talking about that we already have was the TOPS, the treatment outcome profile, which is a national sort of one for substance use. So how would you make sense of why we added a whole load of extra measures? Why people are sort of reasonably positive about?
Well, a lot of the work that we do is not about the substance use, it's about everything else. It's about the complexity. So
and the TOPS is very limited, isn't it, to just those few things that we ask.
Yeah, whereas the AIM and the CGI and the CGAS all are about the young person's life as a whole.
Which often give us a much clearer insight into why that young person will be choosing to use substances.
Okay, so if I'm right, that you're saying that filling out a more complex sort of global outcomes measurement actually has a clinical helpfulness because it helps you focus on the complexity of the young people's lives rather than just the scores, if you like.
It might sometimes help you think about something that you perhaps hadn't thought about when you're doing the assessment, for instance. Even though you're taking all that information in, when you're actually filling in the aim, it makes you think, oh, well, God, that makes much more sense when you see something like that.
And I guess with things like the CGI and the CGAS, because we do them every 3 months as well, it kind of, because a lot of the young people we work with don't just stop using substances, they might just cut down. But then at a 3-month review, you can see that they have cut down, and that's good for you and good for them.
And that other things have changed in their life as well.
So that if we focused on the sort of second of my questions, which was as individual practitioners, it is a bit of a bore to have to do extra tasks, but you are doing these, with every young person that we work with now. So what individually makes you think this is worth doing. Or maybe it's just that you get told to do it, but I don't think it is.
Well, part of it is because we're told to do it.
Yeah.
It's a requirement.
Yeah.
Can't get away with not doing it anymore.
But also seeing the outcomes that you presented last week as well. And for me, that was really helpful because it does indicate that we make some difference to a lot of young people's lives. And on really sort of crap days where you feel very sort of overwhelmed or very anxious or just sort of maybe disillusioned about a young person's behaviour, you can remember, but actually we do make a difference, and that makes it quite meaningful.
Yes.
And necessary to document it.
Yeah.
And I guess with the outcomes that you presented to us that said about people do better if they're in treatment with us longer, I think that you work with someone that's hard to reach and you spend a good year trying to build a relationship, and it's nice for us to know that we're not just working at, and not doing what we're meant to be doing, the drugs work and stuff. We're building a relationship, and we know that our outcomes show that the longer someone's in treatment, the better, the rest of their life becomes.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much.